Hello, Tooth Fairy. Welcome to today's episode where we are doing a deep dive, getting nitty gritty on something that I see all the time. And essentially, it's besides muscle imbalances, I will say it's the number one reason why you aren't seeing the results of your workouts. I see this all the time. People are working all the time. They're still having pain, aches and pain. They're not seeing the toning definition they want. They're not having energy. It's like they're putting in all this time and this energy and this effort, and they're not reaping the benefits, right? And this is something I'm extremely passionate about because I'm not just here to give you some random exercises. Like, I am here to get people results. I'm here to get you out of pain, improve your posture, and it all starts with one thing. So stay tuned because I'm going to dive in right now.
Hey there! Welcome to the Lift for Longevity podcast, where our goal is to build our strongest, healthiest body. We all deserve to feel our best, but since we only get one body, we have to make sure to protect it by moving safely and with purpose to prevent pain, injury, and surgery. I'm your host, Brianne, and I'm a fit pro turned business owner and also a girl mom. I'm obsessed with educating and empowering dental pros on how to take care of their body by training efficiently and building the right muscles to prolong their career. I know you're tired of spending time working out but still dealing with annoying aches and pains, getting rid of your pain temporarily only to have it come right back just a few hours later, or feeling like you never have any energy. You wish there was a long-term solution to get rid of your pain for good. Well, I'm here to give you real-life, actionable steps that you can take today to get rid of your pain, say goodbye to quick fixes, and have energy to live a life that you love. So if you're ready to get stronger, enjoy your life outside the operatory, and have longevity in your career, grab yourself a high-protein snack and let's get to it.
Okay, so I know sometimes I get excited and I talk like really fast, but I just get so fired up about things. And so I'm going to try my best to slow down, but it's really hard for me. But it's odd considering that I didn't sleep well last night, TMI, but now that I'm approaching 41, I have all the signs and symptoms. I am full-blown in perimenopause. So fun stuff. But nonetheless, here I am talking about probably my favorite topic ever. And the reason why you're not getting results from your workouts, and I'm a very blunt person in case you haven't noticed that yet, the number one reason, because it's your form. It is 1,000% your form. And not to mention the workouts that you do and muscle imbalances, but it's all related, right? So I'm going to go through actually three major examples that I see. But the reason is, okay, so hygienists, we have muscle imbalances, right? We've got forward head posture, rounded shoulders, right? Essentially, our entire center of gravity is pushed forward. I see it every single time people are squatting. Their chest comes forward, their knees come forward. It's kind of like everything is just forward, right? And so you might notice, like, say when you're squatting, or even, that affects your pelvis, and your pelvis is, essentially has excessive curvature, or it's sometimes laterally tilted, or your core is weak because of that, right? As a result, you don't have a lot of core stability, which means you don't have balance, right? So you might feel like you're trying to lunge and you have no balance, right? Everything is related. So the first one that I see, we're going to go over any upper body hinge. Now, this would be like a bent over row, right? I see all the time in my clients a bunch of things. So one thing I see is that your neck isn't neutral, right? You're hinging, your chest should be facing the ground, but like you're looking up. Or I see people in the gym when they're doing this and they're looking in the mirror and it's like, dude, are you wanting to injure your neck? Because like you don't need to look at yourself when you're hinging, right? So that's one thing. But the other thing is too, like on a row. So when you have rounded shoulders, your shoulder joint and your scapula, they are supposed to work together. And when you have rounded shoulders, they're not working in together optimally, right? So I see people all the time, they row, their elbow comes up instead of coming back, and their shoulder blades, or excuse me, their shoulder stays where it's at, but they row and they're like squeezing their shoulder blade back. Well, you have to train them to work together. I see this every single week in my clients. You have to pull the shoulder back and the shoulder blade, like 1, 2. It's hard for me to kind of verbalize this because you can't see me, but you have to train them to work together. And if you're not doing the movement efficiently, right? So like, honestly, what's the point of doing it? And this is why I talk about all the time, like training with purpose and intention. This is why I'm checking my clients' form every single week to give them feedback, because guess what? You might think you're doing something right, but you're not, because muscle imbalances, they're causing your body to essentially not trained optimally, right? Things are out of misalignment. So like, you might squat with your chest down because your body's used to that and that's normal to you, but it's not normal. So anyways, we'll talk about squats in a minute, but any upper hinge. The other thing I see is when you're hinging, you have to shoot your hips all the way back. And again, because your pelvis tends to be, either anteriorly tilted, laterally tilted. There's always something when you have rounded shoulders and forward head, it trickles down. Hopefully you're following me because I know I'm going through this quickly, but I kind of have a lot to cover and I don't want to take too much of your time. But with that, your hamstrings are very tight and weak. So again, every single week I see this, people aren't able to, my clients, my hygienists, they're not able to actually hinge properly because they don't have the hamstring flexibility. Bottom line, okay? So that's any like upper hinge movement, right? Like a bent row, for example. So that's my first example. The second example is like I alluded to earlier, squatting with your chest coming forward or lunging. And I see this all the time. I had a client today. She's like, my knee hurts when I'm lunging or when I'm doing step up. I'm like, let me see your video. Of course it does, because you're shooting your knee forward. That's not how you lunge. That's not how you step up. I see all the time. Every time I check somebody's lunge during a movement screen, a lot of times we can't even lunge for the first few weeks of working with me because the knee's so unstable. That's a sign of weak glutes. It affects your hip, it affects your knee, your ankles, everything trickles up and trickles down. And that's just like an accident waiting to happen. If you don't have knee stability, a lot of times it's more prominent on one side. But that being said, it doesn't matter if it's both or one. If you're lunging like that or doing anything single leg, like you're waiting to get injured, right? And I obviously am first and foremost of like training safely and avoiding injury, right? So that would be like a lower push, like a squat or a lunge, right? Any knee dominant movement, even step ups. Like people, they're like, they don't bring their whole foot on the box, right? Or they're like, again, leaning forward because their center of gravity is forward. Well, then you're putting tension on the knee where guess what? The tension should be on the muscles, right? The quads, the glutes, not our knee joint. And that's why you're having knee pain. I'll give you a quick example of like, that was a lower push and upper push, like an overhead press, because you have upper body muscle imbalances, right? The rounded shoulders, the forward head posture. You have a lot of muscle tension and tightness. You have no range of motion. So it's like, you can't even bring your head or your head, bring your arm all the way up straight overhead because you don't have essentially the range of motion. So that's another thing. So like, why are you doing overhead press when you're not even able to do it properly, right? So okay, those are my two examples, right? The first one was a bent row. The second one was a lower push, a squat or a lunge. And then I touched on an upper push, like a overhead press. But now my third one is going to be another hinge, a lower body hinge, say like a Romanian deadlift, an RDL. Again, you don't have the hamstring flexibility. So what I see all the time is because you don't have, well, you have the flexibility, but not really in your hamstrings, if that makes sense. So I see this every single week, day in and day out, no matter what. And the problem is you don't have the capability to completely hinge properly. So when you try to hinge and your hips get stuck, then you keep lowering those dumbbells lower and lower and lower because you are so uber flexible. You're pulling with the back. I see it every single week. Your chest is not up. Your chest is just dropping down. That's not how you do an RDR. That is not how you do it at all. So we have to keep the shoulders pulled back. You have to first tuck the tailbone so it's neutral before you hinge. So that's a big learning curve in itself. But it's just about scaling back. Like take a step back, learn the movement pattern with no weight, and then add weight, right? Sometimes I see people, their dumbbells are coming way out in front of their body. That dumbbell should be glued to your leg. In fact, when I do RDLs with the barbell, I will come home and I will have like little, I don't want to say hickeys, but they're like little marks on my thighs, because we have, my gym has new barbells and they have a lot of texture on the hands and they're just whatever. They're just leaving marks on my legs. So just for an example, there's just so many things I see performed wrong in a hinge. The other thing I see wrong is you lock your knees out. Or I see this too when women or hygienists are doing like an upper body exercise, they lock their elbows out. You should never, ever, ever lock out when you're working out. Our joints are meant to bend. They're not supposed to bear weight. That's what our muscles are for. So if you're locking out, you're putting all this excessive pressure and tension and just everything on the joints, the connective tissues. It's so unnecessary. So I always are telling my clients, keep like a soft knee when you're doing a Romanian deadlift. Or the other day I had a girl, she was doing an upper body exercise. She's like, my elbow hurts. Send me a video. Well, because you're locking your elbow out. Of course it hurts. You're putting so much weight on your elbow joint. Like, that is not how you're supposed to train. So I know I'm probably coming off a little bit ranty and tangy, but like, you see it all the time when you have patients sitting in a chair. You're like, show me how to brush your teeth. I'm sorry, but brushing your teeth should be a simple task. I was guilty of this too. I didn't know you were supposed to brush at 45 degrees. Like, and it's such a minute task that you do every single day. I've been doing this for 40 years now, right? And people don't even do that properly. So it's like, working out is so complex and you just don't realize it. Like, there's no point to work out if your form is not great. Like, you're working the wrong muscles, you're not having the proper movement patterns, you're going to make your pain worse, and you're essentially half-assing it, right? Because you're not actually working out optimally and getting full range of motion and working your muscles to the extent that they could be and they should be worked, right? That's how you get results, right? I have clients all the time. They're getting out of pain. I had my client check in earlier with Gigi. She just finished my 12 weeks. She's like, I see toning in my arms and my stomach's leaner, and she went from 5 to 6 days to 3 to 4. I mentioned her last week on my podcast. Less is more, but we just have to make sure that we're doing it appropriately, right? I talked to a girl yesterday on Facebook. She's like, I have pain. I work out 6 to 7 days a week. Cool. Well, you're wasting your time. And I hate to say that, but I'm just trying to let you know, like, I am very passionate about what I do. I don't want you wasting time. I don't want you working out even 2 days a week or 7 having pain. Like, it's not necessary, and there's a better way. So if you're still listening, I appreciate you so much. I really am coming from a place of love, and I care. And if you have any questions, my DMs are always open, but that is all I have for you today. I know that was a lot. Hopefully you retained it all or took notes. But again, that is my long-winded response for the reason you're not getting results in your workouts is because of your form. Form is first, ladies. Have a good day.
Thank you so much for listening in today. I hope you got a takeaway from this episode. And if you did, would you be so kind to share it with another dental pro you think would benefit from it? I know you love learning, and chances are that they do too. Also, I would love to connect with you on Instagram, so go ahead and head over to the Lift for Longevity podcast page or follow me at Built by Brianne. If you shoot me a message saying hello, I will personally respond because I love chatting with dental pros. Before you go, though, I want to let you know that I appreciate you and what you do, and I hope to chat soon. Until next time, stay strong.